not Keith David. He is not Kurt Russell, but we did watch 1951's The Thing from Another World.
1.9. Needles hit the top.
This was your pick.
It was.
And I was actually going to pick The Creature from the Black Lagoon to do a review.
Yeah.
But we can't have two 50s sci-fi movies at the same time.
Yeah.
And after watching The Creature from the Black Lagoon, I'm glad I changed my pick.
So,
because while it has a lot of similarities to this is a much better film.
I can see why John Carpenter wanted to remake this.
Mm-hmm.
I see by your faces you don't believe me.
Do you want to go through the cast really quick and the directors?
You go right ahead.
Okay.
You've got all that. I was going to say, I know that this is Howard Hawk that was the writer and director on this one.
I have a Christian Nyby.
Or was Howard Hawk the executive producer on
I think
this
it's the
one?
executive producer.
Yeah,
And it's released by RKO. Based on novella Who Goes There? Starring Margaret Sheridan as Nikki Nicholson, Kenneth Tobey as Captain Patrick Hendry, Robert Cornwaith as Dr. Arthur Carrington, and Douglas Spencer as Ned Scotty Scott. And I mean, it's a much bigger cast than that, but that's our main players.
Yeah. The cast in this is huge.
Gentlemen, Mars, we're getting nowhere.
We're consistent.
I suggest that Captain Hendry communicate with his superior at once.
The reason I wanted to review this because I had never actually watched this before, and I know that might strike you in particular as odd, like a classic film that you haven't watched. Yeah. Yes, it happens. Or sometimes they slip through the cracks. And as a child of the '80s, it was one of those. Look, The Thing is a damn masterpiece, and I knew that at 11. What do I need an old version of it for?
Yeah, fuck you too!
But we also grew up in that era too, where on Halloween, around Halloween, on regular broadcast TV, especially like Channel 11, they aired this type of stuff all through October. You had all these classics playing.
They aired it year-round. They did the Saturday Night Shocker every Saturday night.
Yes, they did.
And I remember, like, they did a promotion where they did King Kong in 3D, and they actually did the 3D versions of it, and you could go to Burger King and get the 3D glasses.
Actually, The Creature from the Black Lagoon was the first time I actually saw 3D broadcasted on TV.
So
was that one. Which is another reason why I kind of wanted to review that one, but...
I understand completely. I will say this. If you've seen John Carpenter's The Thing, which is a very different film than this, you can see where John Carpenter paid homage to this film.
Yes.
All over. From the title sequence, there's certain setup shots that are like direct one-to-one on this one.
The initial setup is fairly similar, except for the dog at the very beginning. So just to kind of like get a brief little kickoff for the plot here. So instead of they're based in Anchorage for this movie, up in the North Pole. So
they're in the Arctic Circle instead of in Antarctica, which they're in Antarctica in the John Carpenter version. So.
Look, I haven't been able to reach shit in 2 weeks. I doubt if anybody's talked to anybody on this entire continent, and you want me to reach somebody.
They're actually going to investigate a seismic activity, right?
Actually, what it is they have evidence that something crashed. They're assuming that it's a Russian bomber plane or something like that, a spy plane.
A meteor might move almost horizontal to the Earth, but never upward.
That it isn't a meteor.
That's obvious.
As they get to the base, they find out that, well, this is way too big to be Russian. It's also giving off a lot of radiation. We need to go to the crash site and investigate. We know that it's not a meteorite because we have photos of this actually going up in the air. Meteorites only come down in one direction.
Yeah, it makes maneuvers.
20,000 tons of steel is an awful lot of metal for an airplane.
It is for the sort of airplane we know, Captain.
So they get to the site and they use thermite to basically blow the ship out of the ice, but What they don't realize is that the hull of the ship is some sort of magnesium alloy, which means it catches fire and it burns up.
Get down flat, everybody!
They do, however, manage to find the one passenger that escaped. They know that it's not human. They assume that he froze to death, so they take a frozen block of ice back to their camp.
Here's some axes. You can chop around to put the whole block in the sled and take it to the plane. I agree
Get
with that.
started.
And some fool on watch doesn't want to look at it, so he throws the heating blanket on top of it. The block of ice melts, and shenanigans ensue.
Keep it going! Keep rolling!
I'm not your enemy. I'm a scientist. I'm a scientist who's trying.
There. That ought to do it.
In case you're curious, just to get this one out of the way, John Carpenter's version is more accurate to the original story than this is.
Yes.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
This film is credited to have, it has a screenwriter, but then apparently Howard Hawks did several rewrites of scenes and dialogue as they were making the film. I did read that. That's why I assumed that he directed it. But I also know that he also, he was meddling big as shit all over this one. The other thing is this is made in the 1950s, which means that it's got a ton of post-World War II, post-atomic bomb paranoia.
Nothing counts except our thinking. We've thought our way into nature. We've split the atom.
Yes, and that sure made the world happy, didn't it?
It's got a ton of don't trust the scientists because they gave us the bomb and it's going to be the end of us all, and it's got a lot of Russian paranoia and all that.
Any destruction would be an outrage, a betrayal of science.
It'll be a betrayal of science, Doctor, but it'll make me and some of the others sleep a lot better.
I did not detect the Russian. I mean, there's a hint of it in there at the beginning, and of course, it's kind of like that's kind of a common trope in a lot of movies where the scientists will do weird, stupid, questionable things in the name of science, and this is no exception.
If we can only communicate with it, we can learn secrets that have been hidden from mankind since the beginning.
He, for some reason, takes samples of the alien hand, arm, forearm, and decides that he's going to infuse it with blood plasma, which I don't understand the logic there. I guess he's like dipping it in all kinds of different fluids to see what works.
I think it's stated in the film, and correct me if I'm wrong in the edit, but I think what it was where they found the hand and the dog blood, and that is when they noticed that it started sprouting things.
Because of this rise in temperature, I believe it was able to ingest the canine blood with which it was covered.
And that's where he got the idea then to steal some plasma and do some experimenting in the greenhouse.
I don't tolerate intrusions into my laboratory. Please don't touch me.
This is what your late colleagues are doing in the greenhouse, Doctor.
But as they're studying the thing, okay, in the original version of the story and in John Carpenter's The Thing, it's an alien life form that can mimic whatever it comes in contact with. In this version of it, and I think they're borrowing this from Invasion of the Body Snatchers, it's
Plant
sentient vegetation.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're trying to describe a vegetable.
I am. Are you getting all of this?
Oh, for Pete's sake.
Quietness.
And it doesn't mimic, but it regrows and it can spontaneously spawn, which that plays into that whole, paranoia bit of it. So I get the references. I understand where they're coming from. I understand that they changed up the science on this, but I'm just trying to figure out if you're going to see if you're doing a science fair experiment and you're going to find out what fluids get your plant to grow. You don't start with plasma. You can start with water and Diet Coke.
Well, again, in the story, the thing got attacked by the dogs, and where they bled and where the arm got severed is where they said they found the spore. So that tracks. That makes sense.
You mean it lives on blood?
And then he has the little planter where he's got all the little plants lined up, and he's got plasma bottles going down, feeding all them, and then he's listening to them, and apparently they're shrieking like babies.
Do you care to listen to them, Professor Wilson?
Yes, thank you. I should. Almost like the wail of a newborn child.
But only if you have a stethoscope in, and it's like that's horrific. That's like who dreamt that one up? Because that boggles my mind on that one. I don't know where they were going with that. I don't know what the plan was, but naturally they have to destroy all of the little babies.
Yes, it must be destroyed.
No.
Its progeny along with it.
No. We can burn these. What about that thing in the greenhouse?
You're talking like frightened school
You're right,
boys.
Doctor. I am frightened.
So I'm sure that the doctor guy was listening to them scream their last because he seemed like that kind of guy. He was very emotionless, and everything was like, oh, well, you know, human beings die, but, you know, science lives on. And it was very weirdly preachy in a really odd way.
Yeah.
Captain, when you find what you're looking for, remember it's a stranger in a strange land. The only crimes involved were those committed against him.
It never rang true. He didn't seem like he was investigating because he was curious or that he wanted to attain that information and share it with the world. Quite the contrary, he was the guy that was just doing it 'cause.
You're doing more than breaking army orders. You're robbing science of the greatest secrets it's ever come to it.
Better go back, Doctor.
Knowledge is more important than life, Captain.
We have a reporter in the mix on this one too, and he hitches a ride with them when they're flying up there and somehow manages to weasel his way into going to the crash site and then going back to the fort and all that. And he keeps wanting to, you know, radio his paper and get his story in there and you know, get a photo of the monster.
Well, of course, he's a fucking reporter.
Well, I get that, but at the same
So what's your problem with it?
No, my
That's what I'm
problem
trying
is
to get at. He's a reporter trying to do his fucking job.
He's got a camera with him the whole entire time. You're going to tell me he couldn't snap one photo? And when have you known a reporter to ask permission to take a photo? No, if you're there to document what's going on, you document what's going on. You can ask forgiveness, don't ask permission. So.
Well, there's that, but he also lives in a military complex. I'm sure they would, you know, take his camera or some shit like that. But either way, but he was on friendly terms with the captain. And the captain is the best part of this movie. Because the captain maintains control over everything as best he can. He keeps as cool as best he can, especially with all the nutty shit that the doctor is doing and the stupid things that some of the crew are doing.
Keep moving, everybody.
Captain, I want another word.
No time now, Doctor. Move along.
Yes, but
Make way here. Clear this out.
Plus he's got his hot girlfriend who he's reuniting with. And actually, that's probably one of the better parts of the movie also is the relationship between those two.
Did you really drink all those drinks? Mm-hmm. You didn't throw any away or anything? Not a one?
No.
Holy cat.
His banter with her is a lot of fun. And I can see the DNA of a lot of other films that he did in that, and we'll get into those in a little bit. But at the same time, it's like, okay, she's a you know, smart cookie, and she knows her business, and she knows how to get things done, and she knows how to basically take care of things. But
she's a little kinky too. She had the captain tied up, and I think the captain kind of dug that shit. So I'm just saying,
he discovered something about himself in that Antarctic station that he didn't know. But every time she walks into a room, she's got a pot of coffee and cups, and the first line out of her mouth is,
Anybody around here want some coffee? Anybody want some coffee?
No, but you can come in.
Who wants some?
I could use a half.
It's like happened so many times. I laughed about it the last time that she showed up.
Well, that joke even goes, or that reference even goes further than that. Like when they, even on the plane, coffee was like a big thing. It was like,
Want some coffee?
Hey, thanks.
Yes, sir.
and for her, it's an excuse to get into the room.
Sure.
Hey, does anyone there need coffee?
It's the only reason I brought it. I was hoping you might ask me in.
So I get all that, but I just, like I said, there was a blonde woman that was there when they first arrived, and she's a perfectly attractive middle-aged woman. I would assume I'd clock her in her late 30s to mid 40s, somewhere in there. And she's blonde and she's pretty, and yet like she shows up in that one scene just so that they can make the joke about, oh yeah, there's this really hot girl that's stationed up at the Arctic Circle, and then they show up and they're like,
You ought to know better than to try fooling our captain. Only dames can do that.
she disappears after that. She doesn't appear. She hasn't left the station or anything, but she's just gone.
I missed that one. I missed that joke.
It wasn't until the brunette shows up and makes her presence known that everybody's like, oh, that's the hot one.
Where do you two think you're going?
We're with you. We want to tell her that was an awful way to treat our
Of course, if
captain.
you don't want us to go,
Why,
we
then
don't
we
have
won't
to
go.
I'm going to get
Of
even with you
course
two
not.
guys someday.
Well done, sir.
I tell you one like old kind of 50s joke that didn't land for me was the very beginning where they're visiting. I think it's like the general, some shit like that. Every time somebody knocks on the door, come in, and they walk in like,
Close the door.
Yes, sir.
come in, close the door. Fuck, I just walked in, asshole.
I was going to say, for the 1950s and them being in the Arctic Circle, it's pretty luxurious digs that they were showing up there.
Yeah.
And apparently they did shoot a lot of this on location. I'm assuming that a lot of the exteriors and stuff, and then they shot all of the interiors on sound stages here. The references that John Carpenter picked up when he remade this, the title sequence is a one-to-one ripoff. There's no two ways about that.
But why would you want to change that though? I mean, that's an iconic.
Super cool.
It's so good.
When they go to the crash site and they actually show like the big sphere under the snow, I loved that. I thought that was all really well done. When they blow it up and like the explosion's much larger than they were expecting, that was great. The creature in the block of ice put in the storeroom, all that, like you can see it one for one from the original to the remake. We wait so long to see the creature. I don't think he actually shows up until almost an hour in that you actually get our first glimpse of him, like completely.
No, I don't think it's that far in. I think it's probably like 30 minutes. Because when they get him back, he escapes pretty quick.
30 minutes.
And they show him
in,
outside getting attacked by the dogs.
30 minutes in, and they're just getting like to the crash site, if I'm not mistaken. I was paying attention to the time on this one as I was watching it.
I don't think it's an hour in. So you'll throw it up
Yeah,
here.
I'll throw the time codes up here for when stuff actually happens, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't show up until very late in the movie. Yeah. Now, the scene where he busts in the door, the creature busts in the door, and they douse him in flame, that's spectacularly good. It's not just enough that he's been set on fire, but then you have two other people that like throw kerosene on him on top of him already being on fire, and then he runs and he jumps out the window. Again, one-to-one with the John Carpenter. It's just positioned differently in the film. Do we ever see this creature try to mimic anything life form wise, or is he just always just the giant Frankenstein-y looking vegetable man?
Veggie, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. One part that cracked me up though is they got the door barricaded up. It was like almost towards like the very end. He just opens the door up the other way. So the barricades do fucking nothing. You must have missed that one.
I really did. I'm going to have to scrub through this and find that one
towards
again.
the very end. It's like all barricaded up. He opens the door in the opposite direction.
I was going to say, there's also, when we get to the finale on this, and they decide that, okay, well, we can't, burn him. We can't, I don't remember why they can't burn him. I think they're out of kerosene.
Well, it's just, it didn't seem to have too terribly much effect on him, because again, they doused him 3 fucking times, and he got away, so they decide, well, we'll just fucking...
Is that what it is? They just didn't burn all the way through? He can't stay on the fire long enough to get him cooked all the way.
Exactly, yeah, you basically have to tie him
it's
down
a rare
and
steak.
put him on a fucking spigot. Yeah.
So they decide they're going to use electricity, which, okay, I get it. That all tracks. It's kind of smart. And they set up that walkway, and then there's just that one spot that they got to get him to get him electrocuted.
He's got to be on that walk, Captain.
That's very awkward. I was just thinking, it's electricity. It just needs some metal to conduct, and all you needed is you could have taken one of the metal doors off and laid it on the ground and covered the entire hallway.
And that's the other part that's stupid too, is because they covered up with wood planks. So like, how's it supposed to conduct?
Wood's an insulator. Yeah,
exactly.
I was gonna say.
So
And basically, you would have just had more charred vegetation on top of it. Whoever wrote that scene didn't understand the science behind what it was that they were doing. There's a lot of that in this, but that scene in particular, and I was just thinking, like, throw a metal door sideways, put two of them side by side, hook a car battery up to it, you're good to go. You don't need lightning to electrocute something. You can just, spark the shit out of them.
One thing that I wish they would have drug out just a little bit was the fact that the alien was smart and it somehow figured out how to shut the heat off in the place.
There's an awful cold in here.
I know, that thing's turned the heat off. What?
That'll change things.
What are we going to do about it? I don't know. Next thing it'll think of is the electricity, so we're putting everybody in the generator room and try to fight it from there.
Yeah, he shut the gasoline flowing to their heaters is what it was. It was the kerosene supply. So I'm assuming there's a kerosene tank outside, and he shut the valve off.
So
like
I wish there would have been more of that that tension, because they got to kill him before they fucking freeze to death and shit like that. I wish they would have drugged that a little bit more.
And the way that they figure out that the heat's been shut off is they're having a conversation, and the girl realizes that she can see their breath, and she's like, wait, that means that it's cold in here. That's a problem. So I dug that. There are smart moments in this. There's really smart moments in this. But part of me almost wishes that they had actually shot some stuff where we actually get at least some notion of, if not the creature's motivations, his actions. So that he's not just popping up and Literally, that's about all he does. He only shows up a few times, and
even then, you don't get a good look at him at all. You just you see him from like 15, 20 feet away, and it's just a shadow.
Yeah, and I realize that that's probably intentional, but at the same time, there was a lot of opportunities for them to build tension in this that I feel are missed. And it's kind of like The Creature from the Black Lagoon. You brought this one up. It's one of those films that it lives in your memory far better than it is in reality, because when you rewatch it through adult eyes, no matter how fond you are of how cool the creature looks, you go, this is kind of slow and talky, and there's not a lot going on.
Yes.
And that's exactly how I felt about this. Where in John Carpenter's remake of this, every conversation informs the audience as to what's going on with the characters.
Yeah.
From the fact that there's a storm that's blown in and they can't communicate with anybody else on the continent, to the fact that the blood's been leaked out, and who might have had access to the locker. All that suspense, all that lack of trust, and the fact that they're all locked together in this small space, and they all knew each other before this, but now nobody can trust anybody.
If a small particle of this thing is enough to take over an entire organism, then everyone should prepare their own meals. And I suggest we only eat out of cans.
That is gone from the original version of this. And that was kind of like the whole big thing about the original version of the story, is that it's about, the whole point of it is, yeah, they look like that person, and yeah, they sound like that person, and in the original story, they actually even had the memories of that person. So how do you tell who's who? Which is, again, a metaphor for Cold War, who's a communist, that whole McCarthy era scare.
Yeah, but this is more just Frankenstein stuff kind of in there.
Exactly.
Which, so I agree with you that while this is billed as a horror movie, there's really 2-3 scenes of actual horror in it,
maybe,
and the lack of tension within the group is completely gone. I love the camaraderie that is shown on here. It's counterintuitive to what you're trying to do here. There's no paranoia in this at all whatsoever.
Yeah, the only one that they don't trust is the scientist. Yeah, the doctor.
Yeah. We owe it to the brain of our species to stand here and die without destroying a source of wisdom.
And, he's like, look, we should try to communicate with it. It's obviously an intelligent being. He's not wrong. So, why are we, trying to set this motherfucker on fire the minute he walks into the room.
Because it's killing people too. So that's.
I get that, but again, stranger in a strange land. It's like legitimately, he wakes up after a spaceship crash. He has no idea where he is. He has no idea if the intentions are hostile. He has no idea what the people that have captured him are trying to do with him.
But
so
the problem
his
is
understandable.
But the problem is you throw her out the fucking window when he keeps killing motherfuckers. Okay,
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
That's
No.
the thing. So
once he
I'm
kills
sorry, Mr.
one,
Scientist Man.
Keep away. Keep away. Keep away. I won't allow you to destroy. Turn on that generator.
Yes, you had a reasonable argument to begin with.
Yes.
But that fell flat on his face as soon as motherfuckers started dying.
And I wish that they had just explored that a little bit more, because there's so much talk in this. And the other thing is, there's a lot of conversations in this where, like, there's 5 or 6 people in the room and all of them are talking at the same time, so you can't really tell what the hell is going on, and you don't know who to be listening to while they're having the conversation. Who's actually bringing up the important information that I, watching this film, needs to know? No, I got to hear about coffee somewhere in the background.
Coffee, Captain? No, thanks. I'll be back.
So,
I didn't mind that, but again, it's counterintuitive to what you're trying to accomplish in this film.
Yeah, and I mean, part of that is the fact that they didn't have, like, they had, one channel audio back in the day, so all the audio is lumped in together and it's all coming out at the same volume. So that's a technical limitation. I get that they were going for a lived-in thing, because when you have a bunch of people in a room, they're going to talk over each other. They're going to have multiple conversations going on at the same time. It's just because of that limitation, they might have wanted to dial it down a little bit so that people could actually hear. And I'm sure if you want to spend the time and watch this movie 5, 6 times, you could pick out who's actually saying the most important thing given any of those particular conversations. But
yeah.
I have notes.
Okay.
So Howard Hawks, in case you're trying to figure out why he was a big deal, he directed the original Scarface. He directed Bringing Up Baby, Sergeant York, Rio Bravo, The Big Sleep, and Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. So if you want to know, he has a track record of writing smart, intelligent women that break the trope. They're not the housewives. They're the ones that get shit done. So that's all great. This was written by Who Goes There by John W. Campbell. The rights were bought from the story for $1,250.
Oh,
that's a steal.
Yeah, but it's a fairly decent payday for a novella.
In 1951 money, that's not a lot, because I know that we also did The Sun Also Rises, and I know we discussed what they were paid for the rights to that.
Oh, I remember what the dollar amount is.
Yeah,
to throw that up.
Even like Forever Amber and all those films, there's a lot more. So he was paid peanuts for this, but yeah, you're right. The script was by Charles Lederer. It was rewritten by Howard Hawks and Ben Hecht. So we already talked about how the 82 was more accurate to the source material, but Howard Hawks actually started his career during the silent film era in 1926. This is 25 years to the day later, and he's still a thing. And he continued to make films all the way up into the 70s.
Oh, wow,
and,
that's a long career.
Yeah, his last film was Rio Lobo, which was a sequel to Rio Bravo, and it had John Wayne in it as well. James Arness played the Thing in this, and in case you don't know who James Arness is, he's Peter Gray's brother. Arness is their real last name, but he played Marshal Matt Dillon on Gunsmoke for 635 episodes. So this man...
I never watched a single episode when I was a kid.
This man, like, literally, he found that one good paying gig, and he stuck through to the end. His last role before he passed away was a TV movie. It was the 4th TV movie for Gunsmoke. He was still playing Marshal Matt Dillon.
Hey, man, we got a good thing. Ride that motherfucker out to the bitter end.
Look,
if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, mad respect. You thought Sam Elliott was a cowboy for a long time. He ain't got shit on Will Arnett. Will Arnett was 6'7". And that's why they cast him for the role, because they wanted to make the creature as tall as possible.
And that's a stupid thing. He's so far in the background, you don't get a sense of how tall he actually is. Like you get a feeling that, okay, yeah, he's probably 6 foot something.
Yeah.
but not 6'7", especially back then, because people were much shorter.
Yes.
So if they actually got some close up of this motherfucker, you could have seen the scale of this creature.
I was going to say the doctor actually mentions that the creature is 8 foot tall. So I think that's why they were making sure that he was further back in all those shots, because you can't determine scale if it's not right next to the 5'4" guy. So that's the hero on this one. All the main actors in this were second stringers. Will Arnett was by far the most famous of them, even at this point. And again, he was cast because of his height on this. The budget on this film was $1.1 million. Some sources say it was $1.6 million. And a lot of that had to do with the fact that they actually shot
on location
in Alaska.
Okay.
So they had to basically drag an entire film crew up there. They also had issues with the equipment, so they had to reshoot a lot of it. That UFO sequence where they find the UFO and they try to blow it out of the snow, that was obviously the most expensive. The rest of it, all the interiors, all shot in Los Angeles. So those poor actors were sweating their asses off in the 80-degree heat while they're wearing winter clothing. That also explains why none of them are really wearing heavy Arctic gear. The box office for this was $1.95 million. So it was not huge.
Wow,
300.
no,
yeah.
That's not a good return.
No, but
at all.
It was, however, the most profitable science fiction film that came out that year. And I bring that up because that year, The Day the Earth Stood Still and When Worlds Collide both came out. So this outperformed both of those. It was the 46th largest earning film of that year, which doesn't sound like, whoop-de-doo, but compared to the hundreds of other films that came out, it actually did okay. It was noteworthy.
That budget, though.
Yeah.
Woo, that budget killed them.
So, I was going to say...
Because $1 million back in 1951 was a good chunk of change.
It was a good chunk of change.
Especially because this movie's black and white.
Yeah.
Technicolor was out back then.
Yes.
Color was a fucking thing.
Yes.
And some of your other big movies were $1 million because of Technicolor. So...
But
I wonder where a lot of this money went. I don't think it cost a fucking $1 million to shoot a couple scenes in fucking Anchorage, Alaska.
They had to get a plane. They had to go up there and actually they had to build exteriors, or I think they might have used existing exteriors. Apparently, they had to pay to shoot in the wildlife preserve for those exterior shots. So that's part of it. Plus, the size of the crew and the cast, you have to fly all of them up there and then fly them all back. Keep in mind this, too, that this was 1951, so it's not like you had these massive multi-million-dollar ad campaigns. You had a movie poster, and then it was probably shown in a cinema that was owned by the RKO. So you didn't have to deal with, the exhibitors take 50% and blah, blah, blah. So that's why it's a 40, it's still up there as far as earnings go, because the shift in the movie landscape hadn't become independent cinemas showing films and taking a cut of everything. So they could afford to spend $1.1 million or $1.6 million and only get back an additional, $350,000. They still made money. It all went right into their pockets. The girl that played the lead in this, Nikki Nicholson, whatever her character's name was, she only did like 6 films. And
that's a shame because she's a cute and very talented actress.
Apparently, Howard Hawks lost his shine on her. I was reading about her a little bit, and he found her and he wanted to put her in a film noir, and she said no to that. But she did this. This was her first film, and then just a few films later, 6 films, and I think 5 years later, he described her as having lost her young charms and being a completely different woman, which tells me that he said, "Sleep with me, baby," and she said, "Nah. Yeah, I'm Howard Hawks," and she's like,
I never saw so many hands in all my life.
All right.
It's a shame. She was adorable, but it's also one of those things that was very prominent in Hollywood at that time, where women would age out of being cast as the lead in a role, just by virtue of not being 27 or 25 anymore. So,
well, it's a shame she didn't do more movies, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. But it's
it doesn't seem like you're too very fond of this movie.
You know what? I wanted it to be more than what it was. I wanted it to be The Day the Earth Stood Still. I wanted it to be When Worlds Collide. I wanted it to be Forbidden Planet. I wanted it to like live up to that. And to be perfectly honest, John Carpenter's version of this is so much better. And I know that may sound like blasphemy to some of you. You know, the original is always better than the remake. John Carpenter's is the original. Trust me, watch these two films back to back. You're not going to feel like you watched the same thing twice. As a matter of fact, quite the contrary. You're going to be like, okay, I see that reference, I see that reference, I see that reference. Yeah, John Carpenter kind of killed it. So.
I'm not going to beat up this too terribly much. I mean, it's a product of its time. It's 1951, and science fiction was what it was. I don't think this would have done very well, though, if you went with that original premise where you had the thing mimicking, other people and stuff like that.
It would have come off as a ripoff of Invasion of the Body Snatchers. So,
right.
Yeah, I think that's probably what they were intentionally trying to avoid. Yeah. And that's robbed this film of some of its hit, you know.
And then there wouldn't have been like any real horror aspect of it. Because I don't know how they would have portrayed that back in the day, especially with Hays Codes and stuff like that. You know, how would they portray the murder? How would they, discover some of these other things? I don't know. It's an okay film. It's not the greatest thing in the world. Yeah. It's still kind of a classic, but again, as I discovered by watching, Creature from the Black Lagoon, some of these things don't hold
nostalgia,
up.
Nostalgia is a powerful motivator.
Yeah, very, very much so. This is definitely something though you could throw on with if you got little kids around, something like that. You know.
For that crowd, it's if you need a popcorn movie to watch with your kids that's not too scary but is a horror film, this is great fodder for that. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you flat out that I would much rather watch the 1930s Dracula or Frankenstein or the Wolfman because they're much more successful in tension and scares, and they're easier to follow. And I'm not saying that this movie doesn't, this movie's just not as complicated as it wants to be. Yeah. And it intentionally obfuscates that by having these multiple conversations with too many people talking at the same time. So it didn't live up to its source. It definitely, the remake is a better version of it. I kind of put this in the same category as The Blob and the Blob remake, because if you go back and you watch the original Blob, it's a slog, man. It's
better than this.
It's better than this, yes, but the remake in the 80s? The remake in the 80s just nails it, on every aspect of it. It gets the alien part of it right. It gets the horror part of it right. It's got the hot starlet in it. It's got, It's
got Johnny Drama in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Kevin Dillon as the lead because Matt was too expensive. It's everything you want from a B horror flick, but it's just done well. Don't watch that one with your kids. It's got some genuinely gory, horrific shit in it.
Very much so,
No, I get why this is in the pantheon of great classic horror films, but I guess I wanted it to be a great classic sci-fi film, and that's kind of where it misses. Even though it's got the DNA of a sci-fi film, at the end of the day, it's big scary monster chasing people, and they must defeat it, and that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, pretty much.
So, what about you? What were your?
I mean, we've talked about for the last almost 40 minutes now. We pretty much beat down every point we need to get in this thing.
This horse is dead.
Very much so. So, I think that's what we got.
Yeah, we will catch you next time.